Welcome, everybody. I am Madeline DiNono, and I am the chair of the TV Academy Foundation Board of Directors. And our mission, in case you don't know, is to educate and engage the next generation of TV creators while preserving our rich legacy. So our Power of TV series, which is a new series, aims to inspire and influence positive social change through compelling storytelling on screen and behind the scenes. We have some wonderful sponsors we want to thank tonight, Netflix and Stars, and we have a new partner, H Club LA, which provided the fabulous reception, and founded by Paul Allen. H Club LA will be opening in Hollywood later this year. We also want to thank our dear friend Felix Sanchez, who leads the National Hispanic Foundation for the Arts. And we want to give a shout out to co-founders S.A. Morales and Jimmy Smits. And we are eternally grateful to our foundation board of director, Benito Martinez, who's hiding in the back, for his leadership. So tonight we are spotlighting the critical importance of Latinx inclusion in media. But many of you who know me know I'm a data geek. So what does the research say? Well, according to our 2017 census data, the Latinx population in the US was 17.8%, nearly 60 million people in 2017. 13.5% of our US population speaks Spanish, the largest compared to French, German, Korean, Chinese, and Arabic. But consider this, in 2045, Caucasians will be the minority. And guess what? Guess what? Guess what? 24.6% of our US population will be, yes, 3.1% for African Americans, 7.8% for Asians, and 3.8% for multiracial populations. So that's a huge amount of people. So in order to be relevant, our fictional worlds have to reflect real life. According to our friend Darnell Hunt, who does the Hollywood Diversity Report, in 2016, in scripted TV, in broadcast, only 6% of the actors were Latinx. In cable, only 5.6%. And in digital, the fastest growing platform in the world, only 5%. And looking at new scripted shows for the 2017-2018 season, Latinx actors are only 4%. Now, hopefully that's gone up with everything that's been greenlit, but that's not good. But it's not all bad news, because with us tonight we have Nina Tassler, co-founder of Patma Productions, who formerly is the chair of CBS Entertainment. Nina is also on our foundation board, and she is a winner of the 2008 Televisionary Award given by the Television Academy Diversity Committee for her commitment to inclusivity in all aspects of the industry. So I'm going to bring Nina up, and she's going to bring up our panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And a proud Puerto Rican standing here. The name is deceiving. Boricua. I would like to bring up our very distinguished panel tonight. First, Justina Machado, Gloria Calderon Quellet, Melissa Barrera, Michelle Prada, and Tanya Saracho.
Hi, guys.
One chair at a time. Let me give you a little bit of a background of not only these wonderful and talented performers and creators, but what they are responsible for putting out into the ethos these days. First, Netflix reimagining of Norman Lear's One Day at a Time follows 3 generations of the same Cuban-American family living in the same house. A newly divorced military vet mother, her teenage daughter, and tween son, and her immigrant mother. We are excited to have the show's co-creator, executive producer, and co-showrunner, Gloria Calderon Quellet, and its star, Justina Machado.
Bravo!
Now, Justina stars on One Day at a Time as Penelope Alvarez. She's had memorable, groundbreaking roles on 6 Feet Under, Queen of the South, and Jane the Virgin. Before co-creating, co-show running, and executive producing One Day at a Time, now in its 3rd season, Gloria wrote on shows such as Devious Maids, Rules of Engagement, and How I Met Your Mother. Wonderful. Our next show being spotlit tonight, Vida, is a story about 2 Mexican-American sisters from East LA who couldn't be more different or distanced from each other. That's an understatement. Their mother's death forces them to return to their old neighborhood and confront their past, as well as the life her mother forged for herself. We are thrilled to have the 2 stars of the show, Melissa Barrera, Michelle Prada, and the show's creator, executive producer, and showrunner, Tanya Saracho. Melissa plays Lynn on Vida. She has starred in many telenovelas, including Siempre Tuya, Acapulco, Tanto Amor, and most recently, Netflix Club de Cuervos. Michelle Prada plays Emma on Vida. She has appeared in several indie films and the Emmy-nominated digital series Fear the Walking Dead Passage. And Tanya Saracho, and I just have to put a plug in, a fellow BU alum, Go Terriers, is an accomplished Chicago-based playwright who has worked on television shows such as Devious Maids, Girls, and How to Get Away with Murder. She is the creator, executive producer, and showrunner on Vida. So before we get into some of the questions, if we can just go down the row a little bit and just tell people briefly, how'd you get here?
Briefly. I was a playwright in Chicago. So Chi-Town, yes. I was happily starving. I didn't know I was starving till I came here, and people didn't worry about rent like I was worried. But I was super happy, making theater in Chicago. And then I think my agent's here, and he sort of not discovered me. I was already. He didn't colonize me or anything like that. But he said I could, do this TV writing thing, and then that I just had to do meetings, and you didn't have to study anything. You just had to show up and do meetings. And then I ended up on a show called Devious Maids with this little lady right there. I learned a lot in that show, and then we're here. 3 years after being here, I sort of got handed this show. And it took about 2 years I don't know, lots of prayer. I don't know how it happened, but and now we're here. So I think that's nutshell, yeah.
Well done.
I came to LA on vacation and didn't go home. I really don't know why. I feel like now I understand why, but it was just an instinct and I stayed. And for extra money, I started doing commercials, because that's what I'd done in Miami, and print work and stuff, and then wanted to maybe do a little bit more, but was a little scared to commit to that idea of being this struggling actress, because everybody was like, oh, another one of you. And I was always like, no, not me. So I eventually was making enough money making commercials that I didn't have to have a day-to-day job, so I did that, and followed a boyfriend around on tour for who's still here, and then was doing indie films with friends and just helping kind of create content that I wanted to see, and booked what I thought was a commercial, but it was very secretive, and I had to cry and be upset, and I didn't understand because commercials never did that. So I booked it and found out that it was for Fear the Walking Dead, and shot it. And I thought I'd booked a small role on it, and it wasn't until the fitting that I realized that I was playing one of the leads. And I was like, oh, because they're so secretive. They don't give you the script until 2 days before. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And got to work with some incredible actors, incredible directors, and had no idea that within that year it would get nominated for an Emmy. And was just, because it was the second year that had been a thing. And it's just a testament to kind of let go and let God. Like, you have no idea why things happen and why that happened that way. And I got to meet an incredible casting director, Carmen Cuba, at that at that award ceremony, and brought me in a few days later, and I was on set less than a month shooting Vida after that. So I'd like to thank the Academy.
Well,
Hola. Well, I also came here on vacation because, because that was the only way that I could come in my visa, you know. Uh, yeah, yeah. So I did that.
And you left us to worry about the rest.
Well, thank you. I apologize. I'm from Monterrey, Mexico. I had been working I went to school for musical theater at NYU, and then I went back home to Mexico because not being an American citizen can be really hard to get work as an actor, because they always ask, what's your work status? And you're like, well, am I not like charming enough to, just like give them to me. But so I just decided that maybe it was going to be easier if I went back home to Mexico and started working there, and then after I had made a name for myself there, come back with an artist visa. And that was my plan. So I did telenovelas in Mexico, which is not what I had wanted or planned in my life, but it's amazing. I respect the genre, because it is an actor's boot camp. And I'm very thankful for my telenovela years. And I did theater and film, and then a Netflix show in Mexico. And eventually I was like, I need to go and try it out, Just, I never wanted to like just remain with the thing of like, what if I had gone? And so I came out here with one bag on vacation, visiting a friend. And I think it was like 2 weeks into my stay here in LA that I auditioned for Vida. I self-taped for it because of the nudity, because it was like nudity required, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I should go in, if I'm like not 100% sure if I want to do it. If you guys have seen Vida, I did it.
it's equal, but what I love, it's equal opportunity nudity. That's what I love,
Yeah.
and I have to
It's
applaud
great.
you
We'll
for
talk
that.
about it too. But then eventually, this marvelous woman right here believed in me and took a chance on me and said, I want her, get her a visa, and that's why I'm here.
We held production
Great.
a few weeks, and then we're here. Worth it, very much so.
Gloria.
Okay, I'll be fast. Okay, I'm Cuban, so I talk fast anyway. I came here I went to Loyola Marymount undergrad, and and then after that, I went to University of London. I went to proper drama school to be an actor and writer. And when I came back to Los Angeles, I did not realize, I am not kidding you, the auditions were just Gangbanger's Girlfriend and Gangbanger's Sister. So it's literally like I'd have to spray tan, because I do turn a nice caramelo. But I'm a writer, so I'm always like inside, so I got blanquito. And so I'd be like, Chewy, put the gun down, all right? And then they wouldn't give me the part. That was every role I auditioned for. And I was like, is there not like a teacher or like a social worker? Nope, nothing for me. Oh, I'm too white to be Latino. Yep, 100%. Okay. And then so my frustration led to me writing. My frustration led to, if it's not on screen, I'm gonna write it, because certainly there have to be other people that are experiencing what I am experiencing. So I am completely self-taught. From that point on, I went to the Paley Center, which is the Museum of TV and Radio at the time. I would pay my $2 or whatever I had, and I would sit in there for hours, and I would watch every single TV show I could think of. I've seen everything, and they have everything there, and they would totally be cool, because you're not supposed to bring food in, but I did. And I'd be sitting there writing my notes, and then I started to apply to programs. And that is how it all happened for me.
Brilliant.
Story's not as fast or great. I've been here forever. I got here in 1995 from Chicago. I'm a
City.
Chi-town girl. And I probably have worked on almost every show, and with a whole lot of people, lots of guest stars, lots of recurrings, which actually prepared me for this fabulous role of Penelope Alvarez. And yeah, that's it. I've been here since 1995, and the game has changed, but it's changed some in a way where there's so much content, right? So it's not like before, but also there's a lot more inclusivity. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that. There's a lot more of that going on, like things like this. This never happened. I don't remember this ever happening. You know, sitting down and having this kind of conversation about Latinos or the Latinx experience in Hollywood. So I'm. Ay, mira este. I knew it. I knew it. As soon as I saw you. I was like, there's Isai. I love you, Isai. But yeah, so I see some really great things happening, and I'm so proud and I'm so happy that I've been here and I've seen it and I'm still here and that I'm a part of this situation right here. So I'm very happy.
Wonderful. So we're in a moment. I mean, clearly we're in a moment. But as Madeline said when she started, there are still some statistics that are a little, not great. And the Hollywood, as she said, the Hollywood Diversity Report noted that in film, Latinx representation is under 3% of all speaking roles. And while television is slightly better at nearly 6%, but it's still nowhere near reflecting the Latinx population in general, which is over 17% of Americans. Why do you think television has a slightly better edge in Latinx representation, and yet why are we still so far behind?
Do you think we're in a moment or a trend?
I think I think every day is a moment. Every moment is a moment.
Because I feel like, especially there are some people who have been here before, maybe in the 90s, maybe in the early 2000s. They're, here, we got we're here. And then the pendulum goes right back. So, I don't know. I hope that we are in a moment.
Well, we're in a moment, I think, of realizing that we have a distance to go. I mean, we have arrived in some respects, but why haven't we gone further? Go for it.
I have well, first of all, so many of the networks and studios make the pilots and then never put them on the air. You know what I mean? So they fill whatever quota they need to fill for that and then don't put them on the air. I don't know why. I think that needs to change. But I also think as Latinos, that we need to come together. There's so much division. You're this, I'm this. What are you doing playing that role? You're not that ethnicity. You're not this. We defeat ourselves sometimes. And I think that if we came together, and I think it's happening. I can't imagine how strong we could possibly be. Do you know what I mean? If we all really came together. I think that's one thing. And I also think that people have to change their perception of who we are. You know, they have to get more Latino writers in the room. They have to get more parts. When they, one of the things that they do all the time, which I think is so interesting and in a breakdown, is they go open to all ethnicities. Come on, man. Come on. What does that mean? You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I've been around. So it's like, but back in the day, they actually used to say hot tamale. They used to actually say looking for a hot tamale. And I am not even kidding you. That is the truth. So I guess we've come, I remember those breakdowns, Yeah.
You kind of have to diagnose what's happening to us as that 17%, because we're invisible in many ways in this country. There were children in cages, and now it's like a forgotten thing. They're still in cages, Now they've been reunited with their parents in those cages, by the way.
There are still 500 children separated from their parents.
And more, because this didn't start now. Right. Starting 2012, so, but, sorry, don't get it. We're invisible in a way, and that is like across the board in this country. So to try to fix only the TV part of it is really difficult, right? To see us because we count, we have money to buy. Advertisers too, we buy, but yet they forget about us a lot of the time.
And by the way, the Latinas are, in terms of, adopters of new media and new technology, they are the number one demographic in the country in terms of the rate at which they adapt to new technology. which is a staggering statistic, especially when you think about advertising.
Yeah, and also movies, right?
Yeah,
Glow?
1 in 4. One in
Yeah.
4 Latinos goes and sees a movie opening weekend.
So do you think because all of us have a very different cultural narrative. We all come from very different backgrounds. We've had very different experiences. How do you think that diversity affects the storytelling?
We don't have a shared narrative.
Right.
Right? And I think that there's also such a deep starvation, I think, that our people have. We are so desperate to see ourselves represented. When there's one, we want that to represent all of us. And that's not possible. So I think that it's hard to, I don't want to say be forgiving because I want it to be accurate portrayals, but I also feel like we need to let good things be good and support it when good things are good so that they will make more good things. Because they want an excuse not to continue doing it. They'll say, oh, well, we tried, but then we didn't know. The Latinos actually don't want to see themselves on TV. What? I mean, I've heard that before. So we need to let good things be good, and when they're good, celebrate that they're good by talking about it and tweeting about it. I love that they're doing this. I love that they're doing that because they listen. The power of Twitter now is real, y'all. Yeah. It is real. They watch that stuff. They do. So we need to let them know that what is being done that is right. Try to lift up whatever is being done that's good.
And for so long, for so long they were trying to be broad because there's 27 countries that make up the Latin diaspora. How are you going to have one consciousness, you know? But they were trying to make us be broad. But I think by being specific, like we're not even about we're Mexican American community in LA. We're not talking about Pilsen necessarily. We're not talking about other parts of it. So I feel like as soon as they let us be specific, we're gonna be universal. You know?
Yeah.
And we've seen that with both of ours because
exactly.
we are West Coast, Cuban American, West Coast, East Coast totally different. Believe me, they tell me. West Coast Cuban, born and raised. So that's the story I'm telling.
That's right. That's right, girl. That's right.
Well, when talk about sort of when you look at your characters and you are making decisions about your characters, how do you access your own sort of personal cultural experience in your performances?
I had never even got an opportunity to audition for a role that was similar to me. My parents are immigrants. I was born here. And it wasn't even until booking this role and getting to live in Emma's skin that I really understood, wow, I totally associate to being, Puerto Rican, Dominican, like French, Mexican, whatever, but I've like rarely been to those countries. Yet somehow I'm like, yeah, like Latin pride, like whatever. And being like, wait, no, I'm actually like Latin American. And that being a very specific thing that even me being that, I never really got an opportunity to reflect it and realizing it was part of, because I'd never really seen that. So I was always trying to play like the drug lord or the lord's daughter or whatever. And it was like, okay, maybe there's more to that. And I remember specifically having a conversation going back to what you said about them being like, oh, they don't want to see themselves on screen. Was someone who used to be the head of one of our major studios, and I was like, why don't I not ever get to audition for roles that are like me? Like, I feel like I see it all the time in life. And them being specific of like, well, we've realized that they don't like seeing themselves on screen. And I'm like, I'm here, but it's like, they don't like seeing themselves on screen, and we've tried, but nobody ever is like, that buddy cop movie didn't work. I guess people don't like buddy cop movies. Like, it's like they get the opportunities to continue making other spy movies, other like spring break movies, but why don't we get that opportunity as well? So it's like everything has to be perfect. And that's that,
They do that with Latino shows. Yeah. They do that every year. Like, oh, well, we tried a Latino show last year. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing with all those white shows? Because there's a lot of bad ones.
Oh, yeah. Hello.
Okay, you still make that show.
We tried a procedural, but it didn't work that one time, so we're not going to do it anymore.
It is true, though, that the support is the thing that we're missing.
Absolutely.
I love and admire and respect the African American community so much because they know how to do it.
Yes.
And they've been doing it, and the place that they have earned because they fought for it, and they have stuck together. And to this day, like I know, like for example, Issa Rae, she was asked like, who are you gonna vote for the Emmys? And she was like, everybody black.
Yes. I love
And
that.
like and I'm like, yes, like they know it, and there's something that we have to learn from that.
That's
I don't know
exactly
if it's, I don't know what it is. I can only speak for Mexicans because I am Mexican, but I know that Mexicans are like cangrejos. We're like crabs. When someone is succeeding, we're like try to pull them down instead of like pushing them up and like being like, oh my God, that's inspiration. I want to be there. They're like, she probably slept with someone, or like, oh, because she was born rich, or you know, like there's always an excuse to like demerit them instead of just like praising and lifting. That's something that we as a community, I think, have to learn how to do. And once we do it,
Come on, we're gonna be unstoppable.
Yeah.
Well, I can share like a quick, I swear, quick personal story where was my first year being part of the academy, and I was eligible, and I had a friend who was my co-star in Fear the Walking Dead, and she was like, "Well, are you gonna join? Because you." I was like, "Oh, well, I've never done TV." She was like, "Well, you qualify because of the nomination," and I was like, "Oh, I don't really watch TV. I don't feel comfortable voting, for TV." And she was like, "Girl," she's like, "You are a woman of color. You have the opportunity to vote for the most important award that is awarded to TV, and you're saying, oh, I don't watch TV. I don't feel capable of doing it." And I was like so grateful that she just sat there and was like, you do that. And I did, and I felt so empowered. I've met so many incredible Academy members, and realizing that, wow, this is a really important time to make it more than a moment, but to take that baton and continue on and never get to this point and be like, oh, good, we got those 2 shows. Be like, no, it's not enough until we see what we want to see. And now, going right off of what you said about Issa Rae, when I voted this year, I was like, there are people that I'm like, I respect you, I love you. An Emmy nomination is not going to make any difference to you. You already have so many. I'm making sure I'm voting for shows that I think really could use the representation and really use that leg up, because we all know that it does make a difference. And to take that responsibility and not be like, well, I don't really watch TV, so,
The responsibility to watch the shows.
Yes,
Because
yes.
they send you so many that some people
Right?
just do what they're used to. And I think there's got to be a better system. There just has to, because so much gets lost. I had like boxes and boxes, which I was very grateful for. But like, really, who watched all that? You know what I mean? Who did it? And so there's got to be some sort of different thing going on.
Well, speaking of a different thing going on, let's talk about Latinx for a second, because this is new. This is new to our culture. It's new to our language. It's new in terms of our storytelling, and it's new in terms of the way we look at each other, I think, which is really important. And I'd love if you can just talk about what the term means to you individually, and what do you think the overall impact culturally is going to be?
Well, Latinx, isn't it a Cuban Kleenex or something?
You watch my show.
I do.
That's Rita's line.
I am a fan. If you haven't watched One Day at a Time, you should.
So
Fabulous.
good, you
For
guys.
everyone.
Latinx is such a beautiful. It's such a beautiful word because it's for those who don't know. I imagine that most people here are woke.
Maybe not everybody does.
Not everybody.
So talk
but
about.
Latinx is just an inclusive term. The Spanish language and the Latinos are like, we usually are very gendered in our language. Everything is female or male, and there are people that don't identify as male or female. So it's important for them to feel included. And Latinx is I think it was like the birth of that inclusion for the community, and we use it a lot in our,
Because not
shows
everybody even identifies as female or male.
Yeah.
There's this binary idea of
we have an
your gender.
actor on Vida that is non-binary. So it's been educational for all of us. They use the pronouns they, them. So it's been a learning experience to learn to refer to a person as they or them, because that is it's not that difficult. Like, if that's what's gonna make them happy, then why don't we all take
feel
the effort
seen.
or and feel safe or feel comfortable? Because it's a thing about feeling like you exist. And so I think it's so important to have this terminology growing and being known and being used. And in shows like Vida, we have, it's written in the show, we have characters that are non-binary on the show, because the actor that is non-binary in real life doesn't play non-binary on the show.
Cis,
It's cis, yeah. But and cis means that you, okay, cis means that you identify with the sex
assigned-
that you were
you were
assigned
assigned
at birth. Right.
And by saying that the show is a Latinx show about two Mexican American sisters, and people ask me, isn't it just a Mexican American show? No, we are saying that the gender is important to us and the queerness of it is important. So it's like you're sort of telegraphing that. So that's what we do describe it as a Latinx show about two Mexican American sisters.
Oh, me? Well, look, the reason I like it is because I like that it is inclusive. Growing up, I grew up in Oregon. I know, yeah, there's Cubans. There's a lot of Cubans in Portland, y'all. And I grew up always saying Cuban American, always Cuban, Cuban, Cuban. And then we moved to San Diego when I was 14, and that was the first time I met other Latinos, really. And I was like, oh my God, there's so many of us. And I enjoyed being a part of that family. So then I started referring to myself as Latina. And then the Latinx portion of it is just including more people. I like making us all a family and fall under one umbrella. As different as we are, I like the inclusiveness of that.
I agree. I'll use any term that makes anybody feel seen. People feel seen and heard and loved, and I think it's a beautiful term. I just learned it last year when we did an episode.
We have a non-binary
yeah, we did an
character on the
episode,
show,
and we did a they, them, their, all that. So I'll say whatever makes anybody feel good, and I think it's a beautiful term. I really do, and I'm proud to use it.
Well, I think what's really extraordinary is both Netflix and Stars took a shot, and I'd love if you can share sort of what role did they play in supporting your visions?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I think Norman Lear was really who made our show happen. I think had I walked in and said, I want to make this show, they would have been like, give us a few years. But the fact that I had Norman saying, listen to her, made the show happen. So I'm so grateful. And I think that once he said, listen to her, then they did. And then we have a show. Now we're in our third season, and nobody asks him now. They just ask me. But it's true. It's true. But along the way, I will say we really get no notes from Netflix. We always, and that was, I think season one of a show, you're trying to figure it out. A good network and studio is trying to help you define your voice. I think notes can be very good. I think, though, that we always had so many more notes. I would sit down and be like, this is what we're going to do. We want to do this and this. And we always had so many more notes than they had that they just started trusting us and go, I think you guys know what you want to do with it. And we always do. We always know that first table read, what we want to change.
Oh, absolutely.
And what we want to do. And we'll talk to, I'll talk to you always. And then we go and rewrite it. And so by the time it's show night, we have a show that we're really happy to put up. But they're great. They just say, do it. Do what you want to do. There was a moment where I told Mike and Norman, I said, they're going to call and say, make a Mexican. It's going to happen. Watch. And I can do, I grew up in San Diego. I grew up in a Mexican community in San Diego, and I know that community. It's just different than the stories I wanted to tell about my parents. I really wanted to talk about Pedro Pan. I really wanted to talk about what it is for Cubans to come here, because a lot of people don't know that we have some sort of preferred status. I don't know why, because of geopolitics or because of... Actually, I want to tell one very quick story, because Fabiana, who, for those of you that don't know, you guys have to look her up. She does a really amazing thing about social, how we affect culture, how we as television creators change culture, okay? And she has all these amazing statistics about it takes about 10 years. So once somebody's in your home, once Ellen is in your home, and you like Ellen, 10 years later, you're going to see that all of a sudden marriage equality and all this stuff is happening, right? So she had this amazing thing. And I went home and I thought about that. And I thought about, in 1952, I Love Lucy aired on American television. And there was a Cuban American in everybody's home every single week. A decade later, Operation Pedro Pan happens. A Cuban group of children need to come to this country and need to be supported because they're away from their parents. Sound familiar? Those children were. The American government brought them in. They put them in these camps. Catholic Charities came in and put them all over the country in different foster homes, which is how my parents got to Oregon. And I really think that had Desi Arnaz not been on TV a decade earlier, I might not be sitting here. So that culture is effective in my own life. So if we can do that for all of these other communities, I feel like we wouldn't have kids in cages right now.
So I think I am sitting here because a Hispanic woman, not Latina, she's Spaniard, has a power position at Stars, and called me in and handed me a show when I'd only been here 3 years. I'd never done it. Had just left How to Get Away with Murder, and was like trying to go back home to do a show, a theater piece in Denver. And I was like, I'm done with TV. I'm always done with TV, but not right now. But I'm always like, I'm done with TV. But she took a chance, and that's not just like the initial meeting. It's the 2 years of and all the championing that she had to do that I don't even know, like half the things I don't even know about, And then when we got to the point of casting, letting me work with Carmen Cuba, who is a Latina and defended this vision, and Ser and Chelsea, the La Chinche, and Mari, like those were like, she was as concerned about authenticity as I was, and then the fact that Stars supported it at every point with dollars, so they let me staff an all Latinx, director roster. All my department has a female. Like, they never question it. All my writers are Latinx, all that, They never question it. And then when I really saw, and talking to you, was like when they put so many billetes behind the promotion, because they're like, we stand by the show. And I remember there was a dinner we were at when we were at South by. We were like, we premiere South by Southwest, and they rolled out the carpet. I mean, they really did it right. And I was just like crying. I was like, thank you for rolling us out like a white show. I said, I was like, because that means we have value. Unfortunately, that means we have value here, But they have and treated us, as like a very loved child in that lineup, and that's them, in there.
Well, that kind of support, which has value, and really is what I like to call is formal sponsorship, which is really putting your money where your mouth is. But mentoring is also a very important part of it. And Gloria, Tanya, you have your writers, but I'd love everybody to talk about what are some of the different ways we can expand our reach, we can mentor and sponsor, bringing more people into the conversation. You talk about department heads, you talk about your writing staff. What are the things that we can do in work, in our everyday life, to sort of sponsor and support, Latinx people coming into the entertainment business?
Well, we have a few, not programs, but our shadowing program is very specific. Sometimes directors get lost in the shadowing program. They shadow here, there, and then they never get an episode. Our program, we only mi acento. We only choose one shadow, choose a shadow, choose one person to shadow, and then we give them an episode the next season. But that takes Stars being like, all right, we will stand by it, because it's, again, like it's lots of leaps of faith, not just one. Same thing. Our cinematographer had never led a unit, but she was Latina and she had gorgeous eyes, and I mean, her prism, like her
but also her
artist
eyes.
and her eyes are
She also has nice eyes.
And we all stood by her, and that was her first season. Now there's like a Latina badass cinematographer out there who shot a gorgeous show, So because, I mean, but Stars stood by her. They stood by me, So it was it trickles down. So at every turn, I think we should be opening, if you have positions of power, and you can have. There's lots of ways to have power, So I feel like there's lots of ways to open doors, and mentorship can look a lot of ways. Sometimes it's just holding the door open, pass, Sometimes it's sitting and doing more than that, with someone like a young writer or someone who wants to be a showrunner, that thing. Like, I have only staffed people. I have some of my writers here. I've only staffed people that you better be a showrunner, Jennifer, because we need you to be a showrunner. Do you know what I mean? Like, all the people I staff, I have an eye for them, to have their own shows. So, I mean, in that regard, that's how I've been doing it.
Well, and even also as actors, like Meli and I, most of you probably had never seen us before the show, and I think that that's a big leap of faith to be like, I'm going to get fresh talent. I mean, I had been in class for a long time. I've been working a long time. Meli has been doing soap operas and everything. But really, like, when you're looking at dollars and selling us to a network, you're like, trust me, I'm sure it's going to be great, And
Yeah. You just need one person to vouch for you and believe in you and give you that opportunity. And thank you.
thank you.
But also, I think I don't know if this is a mentoring thing, but just hire women, hire women of color. I think we need that, and there are so many talented women of color out there that are not given the opportunity because they're not even looked at. Like, it's just like no, it's an automatic, like, as if it were a disadvantage to.
Or they haven't had the uncle or the dad that's in the industry that's like, hey, can you get my kid a job back there? Da, da, da. I grew up in a part of Miami that nobody I knew was doing anything that I could do. And I remember when I wanted to finally make the leap into, a few years of being like, I think I want to do TV, being like, well, the way it works. Like, you have to know somebody. I mean, being like, but I don't know anybody, and
Now you know a lot of
I'm-
people.
now I know all you guys. And also, I want to also call out Gloria because Gloria had a really, really wonderful brunch at her house just a few weeks ago with Justina and Stephanie Beatriz and Melissa Fumero. And it was really about us coming together and creating other people to pitch shows. It's not like, well, I'm the jefa, I'm the chief, and I'm going to make sure that I'm on top. It's like, I want you to rise. I want you to rise. I want you to rise. How can I help you? And I think that that's really important as well.
Yeah, and asking. Yeah, that's good. I think you just have to ask. You have to ask for people of color. I always ask agents. I've had many conversations with agents because it's a special ask and it shouldn't have to be a special ask. I shouldn't have to say, please send me writers and people of color only. Because I know the white guys. I've worked for 12 years as a TV writer. So there's white guys. I love them. I will hire them. But I know who they are already. I need to know who the people of color are, who the women are, always. So you have to ask. And if you have to ask again, because sometimes they'll send you 2 people, and you go, who else you got? You need to find more people. My favorite thing is because agents get your phone number when they're staffing. They get your cell phone number. I don't know how it happens, but they get your cell phone number. And last year when I was doing my homework, trying to staff History of Them that didn't go, but I was doing my homework like a good showrunner, they would call me and I'd love to answer because it would be like, hi, Gloria, we just want to know like if you had any needs. And I said, I do. I am looking for Indian American females that have multi-cam experience. So send me all of those that you have. It was awesome. I do. Oh my God, I'm so glad you called. Yes, I am looking for. No, you got to ask. You've got to ask, and I agree. I really like female heads of department. I communicate really well with them. And I think the male heads of department, I always speak to and say, on our show, we have some white male heads of department, and I say, listen, I think you're amazing. It would really be valuable to me if you had more people of color on your support staff. So as you grow and as this show grows, I would just encourage you to look for that. And they've all been very open about it. Really, everyone has. So, when it came to directors, all of our directors are women, people of color. Todd Grinnell is directing an episode this year, so we have our one white diversity spot this year for Todd. But because we want to give him a leg up. But other than that, that's all that we. And every year we have new directors come in. And listen, here's the thing too. It's hard. It is so much easier to just use our regular directors that we use every week. It's so much easier. It is harder to have somebody new come in to this space. So everyone has to be on board with, we're doing a really good thing. I always consult with Justina, and she's so kind and generous about like, I got it, because it's going to be the hardest on her as my number one on the call sheet, who leads such a beautiful group of actors. It's going to be tough on them, but they are also believing of us lifting people up. So every year we have new women come in.
I want to ask Justina, because many of us saw you first and fell in love on 6 Feet Under. I mean, that was for which she won a SAG award. And you have done some amazing and memorable roles between Queen of the South and Jane the Virgin. Incredible. Tell us how playing Penelope is different for you.
Oh my God. I always say, well, first of all, you could see the relationship that I have with this incredible woman right here, right? We're like, yeah, yeah. We're just like this all the time. She trusts me. I trust her. It's truly, we're working together. You know, sometimes, so many times as an actor, it's like, it's not as collaborative as you'd like it to be. And, you know, but I can always go to her and Mike, and I can always say, look, I'm not comfortable with this, which doesn't happen a lot because it's an amazing show with amazing writers. But to me, I say Penelope is the greatest, really. And I loved 6 Feet Under. I mean, 6 Feet Under is television history. And that was also an amazing part. But this is the greatest part I've ever had in my life. And it's because it's an incredible woman who has all of these layers and all of these levels that I get to play, and I'm not in the box that they always want to put us in. You know, I'm not the asexual cop or the over-sexualized Latina or, you know, or the suffering mother, which I've played many suffering mothers. But I mean, I'm not any, you know, I get to play all of these amazing roles, and she's flawed and she's a person and it doesn't have anything to do with her ethnicity. Her culture just brings just brightness and beauty and all of this romance, but it's an actor's dream. It's like the perfect acting cocktail.
Wonderful. You know, and speaking of the perfect acting cocktail, unfortunately, one of the things you hear a lot is a character likable? Your character has to be likable. And Tanya, who puts a Latinx family at the center of your story, and yet your lead characters sometimes not so likable.
They're not.
And yet we love them because they're not so likable, because they're real, they're authentic. But talk to us about how brave a move that was on your part. And for Michelle and Melissa, what is that like for you to navigate Emma and Lena?
I don't know how brave it is, but I have all my plays. I've written around 16 plays, and they're mostly all Latina plays. I used to have a Latina theater company in Chicago called Teatro Luna, and I wrote most of the plays. So to me, you just want to write compelling characters, right? So I had that mission when I came to Stars, and they were about it. So they were like, yeah, never did I get asked about the likability, which is great, because then you can just be like, you can start the show with this one being like, and people are like, at the end of the first episode, we still don't know if we're gonna like her, you know? I'm like, that's okay. Are you compelled to watch her? And the answer was yes. Okay, then I don't care if you like her or not, you know? Because I think a revolutionary act is to portray us in that complicated, flawed way that you're saying, because we haven't gotten a chance to have, you know, fully fledged versions of ourselves. So like when we do, you take advantage. So I don't know. But yeah, they're not supposed to be likable girls.
I was shocked that Lynn wasn't likable, honestly, because I like her, obviously, because I play her. And I always feel like I become a little bit my characters. They're me and I'm them. And
Eres
so
mala hierba.
I know. But I obviously when I'm reading through the scripts and we're shooting and we're shooting the episodes, I'm I'm very happy, and I'm in, and my job is to justify everything that my character does. So I'm like, oh, this character's great. I love her. And then when the show came out and I got all these hate messages.
So Lynn, what?
I was like, oh my God, they hate me. What is going on?
I actually remember on set, I think it was Jen, was like, you just shot a scene, and she was like, oh man, people are gonna hate this. And you were like, why? And I was like, oh, she has no idea.
There was one time when you had a scene with Carla, and there's a little thing that at the end you just did it once, and she did a drink, and she was like, I got him.
I was
and
like,
everyone in Video Village was like, oh, we hate it. And she was totally, and I was like, oh man, and you didn't get it. I was like, that was that little, I'm gonna put that in, because that's good, but you didn't get it, and I love that though, because you're so in.
I honestly, like,
Well,
I was shocked. But it's true. I mean, and I didn't get all hate. I got a lot of love from a lot of men, mostly.
Because I mean,
But yeah, but you know what? It's awesome because like when you have a character that is written, that is so broken and so flawed and so real, there's so much room to grow, and that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, and there's I'm
For that
excited.
journey,
You don't
yeah.
even know second season, ladies. You don't even know.
and I think with Emma as well, there was something really, you know, we men get to play Logan and Wolverine or Walter White, and they're, or you know, whoever the guy of Sopranos is.
Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini.
I was like, it left me. But you know what I mean? Yes. But you know, essentially like kills somebody in like the first season. And women don't get to play that without any type of redeeming qualities. And I feel like that reflects us as women. We feel like we have to be perfect. And if you have it together, then you have everything. But there's something really amazing about playing somebody who doesn't have it together, but who is successful, who has agency over her body, who, you know, is making moves, who's worked herself through school, grad school, and has reached a level that many people in her neighborhood couldn't, but isn't perfect. And how incredible is it to get to play those layers? Because I feel like in life, I don't even give myself that ability to just be this unapologetic badass or like whatever. And that was really incredible because I fully understood why Emma was feeling everything that she was feeling. And as the audience gets to know her, then you start being like, oh damn, yeah, well, maybe if I was her, I'd be that way too. And ideally what we're doing as creators and storytellers is we're allowing people to see themselves and be like, oh, it's okay that I'm hurt and that I have this shell and whatever. So there's something really, really powerful about portraying that as women.
Well, we as audience members feel that, and it is honest and very real. I think we have time for some questions from the audience. So if
We have our first question.
we have
from
our first
Benito
question,
Martinez.
yes,
Ladies.
Hello, Benito.
Just real quick, if you can elaborate, Gloria and Tanya, on the pitch process. I know a lot of people are going to be interested in how you get something ready and how you have that first meeting, how you talk about what do you need prepared, how many different places did you go to pitch your project before it actually caught fire. By your look, Tanya, it looks like you just went one place.
You should ask her because I have never really technically really pitched that much. They pitched this to me.
God bless you.
I know, but she's the quick. When she was mentoring me during Devious May, she would talk me through the thing, and I was like, "Oh, that's how that works. That's how." And then your quote grows, and then you keep going. Don't worry about getting a mate. Just get your name out there. Do a good job. You know. So, but I don't have a lot. I mean, because I don't.
Well, you have a lot of aspiring producers in the
Yes,
room, so if
so-
you could just elaborate a little bit
pitching.
on that so that people
I
can
like
take that
to
with
go in, so I think everyone needs to figure out what their pitching style is. What is true to you as a storyteller? I feel like my best pitches are, we're two best friends, we're at lunch, we're having some cocktails, and I'm going to tell you a great story. That's how I pitch. So sometimes I will bring a board because I feel like once I started doing a board, I could point at the characters and then they could kind of follow along. So the last show I did a board. But I'll usually just say like, okay, so this is the oh my God, this is the show, this is the family, this is what they're doing. The lead character's like based on me and she does like crazy things. And you know, you'll go through each of the characters. You'll go through each of them. You'll talk about what makes them interesting. You talk about why it's important in this moment to make that show. Then you talk about the pilot episode, usually. The quinceañera was my actual quince story. I had read about it and I found out it was like the old coming out story where you literally would be like, this is the new young woman, men of the village. Who wants her? We dressed her up. Who wants her? And I was like, no, I am not doing that. And it broke my parents' heart. And I promised them a huge Catholic wedding, which I had. So that I told that story to Norman, and we were like, let's make that the Quince story. That tells us so much about Elena and who she is. Because Elena, I mean, Penelope is the most me in the cast, but I feel like I see a lot of myself in Elena too. Yeah.
and I would just add what you said was the most important thing. It relating it to yourself, keeping it personal, because then you know it's original, it's unique
Yeah.
because it comes from you. Because every single incredible woman up here is unique and special. So making it and connecting it more to your own personal story is much more compelling.
Nina Tassler just said that, people. No, I mean, I'm telling you, that's amazing. I mean, we should listen.
You should ask Nina how she likes to get pitched.
That's right.
That's
We should listen. We have here.
I pitched to Nina.
You have a boss ass chingona jefa up here.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, we have another question.
First of all, it's been a fantastic conversation, and thank you all for all of your contribution. Last week, USC's through the Annenberg Inclusion Initiative put out their report about portrayal, and it was a very stunning article in which we know that just for the 11 years of data that they had, that Latinos were basically static throughout those 11 years. And really, I would say 20. And Belle is here. She can tell you that it's the exact same kind of numbers that we've all been looking at for a very long time. How do we make those numbers more relevant? And how do we keep people one of the things that happens is that shows get tax credits because they're going to shoot in Toronto or they're going to shoot in Atlanta. And how do we make those tax credits verifiable that there is inclusion in those shows? Because then otherwise those shows don't deserve tax credits.
Well, that's two different questions. So the first one, I think, would be we, and Tanya and I both do this, we are not hiring staffs. We are hiring future showrunners. So there is extra time and work that we put in to making sure that the people on our staffs, if they choose to do it, some people just want to be a writer and not showrun. But I would say my young women in particular all want to be showrunners. So if they want to sit in editing, if they want to look at casting, if they want to, I let them do all of it. And if they have any questions, I am there to answer those questions for them. And this year I'm going out with one of my Latina writers as a supervising producer to lift up her pilot project, because every year she's trying to sell something, has never been able to. I think it's brilliant, and the moment I said to Sony, you guys should pay attention, now they want to do it. So that's how we do it. We have to build the showrunners from the inside and give them a pathway to success. So we're doing that on our shows, and I think that will be impactful, but more people need to do it. I mean, look, the elephant in the room is what happened this week for Magnum PI, right?
Oh, my God.
We got tweeted about that. Everyone's trying to figure out this poor young woman, whoever she is, God bless her, because I just want to say, we don't know who she is. Oh, yeah, there's no Latino writers on the show. They were asked.
Hernandez is starring.
The wonderful Jay Hernandez is starring
love
with Magnum. He's awesome, and we should support that show. Let CBS know we love seeing Jay Hernandez as a lead character. But when the showrunners were asked if they had hired any Latino writers, they said it's really hard to find Latino writers.
One.
That was a mistake.
I got a list.
That was a mistake. So, yeah. So
And they'd have nobody. Right.
So he got it was a big Twitter backlash. A lot of people reached out to us. And a lot of people said, well, Gloria and Jane seem to have found people. Did they take all the Latinos? No, there's a lot left, as it turns out, that need work. And then I guess the next day or two, he said, oh, I'm sorry, there actually is one.
So he didn't know who was in his room? Sorry.
Well, because they also said that his ethnicity wasn't important. Like, he was Latino, but like it didn't matter. That's something else that they also said.
That's what the white people say.
Yeah, that's.
But it is a time where it's so great that this conversation is happening. There is a time where reporters are asking and holding these creators accountable, which I think is amazing. That is progress.
Listen, Twitter, you might feel some way about getting dragged in Twitter, but it works. We would not be here. Me Too would not be here. Time's Up would not be here. And if we get our shit together, we might be able to make a movement to because shaming works, y'all. I mean, it's working on this guy. Now he's asking us, go show me that list, because CAA has a list of 300 writers of color, right? I have 152 writers, Latinx writers, and their samples. Now they're saying, okay, I want to see that list that you're talking about. They could have done what we did and taken those phone calls and been like, yes, send me that. They didn't. That's okay. We shame them a little bit and we'll shift culture. I mean, it's worked in other things. We have to take up space. We're invisible because they make us invisible, but we start to believe it, Let's not believe it. Let's make a little noise. I'm not saying to be completely malcriados, but a little bit, Yeah.
I know. I was talking about this at the brunch. Actually, I was talking to Stephanie about pena. We have pena. You know, like, oh, you don't want to. I tengo pena. You know. No pena. Pena is gone, guys.
Yeah.
We gotta ask.
It's a different generation because
right.
definitely when I got here, it was like if you said I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, they're like, damn, that person. You know what I mean? They were like,
So full
look
of
at that,
yourself.
you're so
Yeah,
full of yourself. And now there's this whole like empowerment of like, yes, this is happening. And I'm like, you could say that out loud, you know, your hopes and your dreams and make noise. Yes, we can do that. We can say our hopes and dreams out loud and make noise, like you said, so that we are not invisible anymore.
But what I also think is so important is that I still feel like a lot of, whenever I do one of these panels, afterwards people are like, Gloria, will you read my stuff? Gloria, what I want to encourage you guys to do is be your own, you don't need us. Be your own thing. I didn't know anybody, she didn't know anybody. And we came here, we didn't have anybody to call. So you can do it. And I want, instead of people going, oh my God, that person needs to help me, you can do it. You just have to do the work, right? Do the work, put your head down, submit to the programs, Fox, CBS, NBC,
Writers groups.
Start writers
And
groups.
make sure your stuff is good. Like, take the time.
Yes.
But, like, let's be real. Like,
No,
we're
that's
representing.
Develop your voice.
I
So
also
that's
say-
what
and make sure it's authentic, and make sure you're caring and you're putting the effort into it. Get people that you know, your friends, to read it and get notes and do all that stuff. Make sure that it's good if you're putting it out.
And I want to put a plug in for where Tanya started, which is the theater. And she had her own theater company. Gloria, everybody, it is a great
That's where I started.
environment. It's a safe space, and you can just write and produce. And I think if we have any more questions, we don't. We have one more question? Oh, yes. Yes.
Hi, I'm Camila Pedraza. I'm one of the Television Academy Foundation's interns this summer, one of the few Latinas, and thank you. And, you know, it's been very inspiring to hear you guys. I just want to know, what would you recommend to the younger generations of Latinos that want to break into entertainment? Because I feel like a lot of people have been telling, no, stay in Miami, stay in your market. And, you know, I'm trying to, you know, go to LA, do this, and break into it. So what would you recommend to my generation of Latinos that are trying to make it in LA and in the industry?
Do it. Yeah, just do it. Just as she said,
You're
do
here.
the work. You're here. Take classes, meet people. Don't just say, I just want to do television and film. Learn behavior on stage.
And-
learn how to audition. Learn how to work a room a little bit. Learn how to read a room. There's so many things but just do it. You're here. And it's just one day at a time.
And
Plug.
And honestly, I'm just going to add really quick. We have YouTube and social media. You look at Donald Glover, you look at Issa Rae, you look at a lot of people, Taylor Swift, like a lot of people that have like reached like high heights and everything. Cardi B, whatever, like started there. You can, but you know what I mean? Like just whoever it is, it doesn't matter. Like it's authentic. Make your voice and use what you have. You don't need people to tell you that you're worth it anymore.
more than ever, you have the tools, more than my generation back in the day. Like you have the tools because now you just put it out there. You just put content out there, and then if it catches fire, the suits like back there will come knocking. That guy in the tie back there took me out to lunch because I was doing a play with 49 people in New York, and I thought I had arrived. Of course, I was like, I'm doing a play in New York. I mean, I'm famous, you know. And he took me out for lunch. And I was like, in the theater, they take you out for coffee, not lunch. So yes, I don't know this guy from UTA, whatever. It was UTA. And
Uta.
Go Uta.
he had read a play. UTA.
I love it. She said
But
Uta.
he had read a play, but by then I had 16 plays because I'd been doing it for 15 years in Chicago. So you have to keep doing it, not waiting for it, but keep doing it, because the most important thing is develop the voice. Because Issa, Donald, all those people arrived a little bit full, ready. You know what I mean?
We have one more and then Isai. One more there, and then Isai. Yes.
Hi, thank y'all so much for being here. You have no idea how much this like means to me to feel seen as a Latinx American. My question is, all of y'all have given really, really great advice about how we have YouTube, we have all these things to like, you know, propel yourself. But I find a lot of times in the Latinx community, we stop before we even begin, you know? We are told you're not gonna be able to make it, you're gonna be poor, you don't see anybody around you doing these things. What can we do as a community? Start having conversations to say, you can be in the arts, to talk to an 8-year-old and say, you can try, you can make it, you are going to have a voice. How can we reach out to, people that are in elementary, middle school, high school?
Well, I think it's just a matter of changing the conversation in your home, like starting with your circle, your immediate group of people, parents. It's so important for parents to support their kids, to let them know that they believe in them, and if they want to pursue something. I know that I wouldn't be here if my mom had been like, no, you can't go to theater school, you have to be a doctor or a lawyer. If she had said that, I would probably be in Monterrey with 3 kids, married, and win an office job. because that is how much our authority figures, our parents, the people that we admire, have a say in what we do with our lives. So it's so important, the words that you choose, and try to always be loving. Just like vibrate in love and speak in love and motivate people. Don't let them know, like, don't be tampoco de que, no los mamen tampoco. O sea, what that means is that, like, don't be like, if they're doing something awful, don't be like, yeah, you're amazing, like, you're so good. That's also not helpful. But like, like, you have to care about the growth of the people around you. And I think that it's a matter of, it starts in the home, and it starts with your circle of people, and it's contagious. Love is contagious. So
I think it starts with yourself. Like, listen to what you say to yourself. Because I couldn't get a guest star, I couldn't book an agent, or I couldn't get whatever hired by an agent, whatever it is. I don't even know what it is, because like nobody wanted me. And I got to a point where I was with the manager, and I talked to him, and I was like, do I really, like, let's take a year, you and I together, you're getting me a bunch of auditions, like, I don't want to go into these agencies and do the song and dance and like be like, take a chance on me, because I just didn't make me feel good. And I booked Vida, and Tanya was like, wait, you don't have an agent? Uta. Yeah, and she was like, go to my Uta. But it was just like, I had to eventually be like, I'm not doing the song and dance. Like, I know that I have good stuff, and I'm gonna do it. And listen to what you're telling yourself.
Yeah, and you know what? When I came here with one meeting that I had, because I had like emailed a self-tape to like a management company, and they were like, okay, we'll meet with you. And I met with them, and I didn't really like them, so I was like, I'm gonna have a lot of other meetings, and I will decide after my meetings. I had no other meetings. But what I did is that I started sending out emails. I invited people for coffee. I would like call back home, and producers that I knew in Mexico were like, do you know anyone in LA? And I would invite them out for coffee. Just be proactive. If you really want it, it's just a matter of time. But you have to fight for it.
And you have to do the
for it.
work. You have to do the work. Yeah. I mean, the amount of, when I am staffing and I am looking for people of color, and I do read something that I go, this is really interesting. There's something here, it's not exactly right. I'm going to read their other samples. Hey, can I have, oh, that's their only sample? Oh, interesting. And then one day at a time, there were people that I loved, right, when we were staffing. And then it didn't go, I hired my staff. But I remember, so then when I was last year doing my homework for my next show, this is 3 years later, I went back to those agencies and I said, you know what, I'd love to read X, Y, and Z again. What's their new sample? They sent me the same sample.
But I also want to say really fast, on the other side, when you don't have support at home, because I didn't, my mother didn't. She was like, well, I was working at a bank making $9 an hour, and she was furious when I quit it at 18. She was like, what? You're making $9 an hour? I'm like, it's a bank, right? And I found a community that supported my beliefs. And my theater was Latino Chicago Theater in Chicago. And I joined that theater when I was 18. So not all of us Latinos have that kind of beauty of like, yes, I'm going to support you. No, and my family was like, who does this? We're Puerto Rican, I'm first generation. They're like, get a job. And my family was about get a job and buy property. You know what I mean? That was making it in the United States. So find your community.
Isai, and then we'll have to say goodnight.
Yes, because what I'm going to say is so fantastic. No, I just want to tell you, not alone. I was told the same things. Nobody's going to want it. I'm still around. I'm very inspired by each and every single one of you guys, especially, not just because, but especially because I have a 7-year-old daughter whose favorite habit, we tell her, what's your hobby? It's writing graphic novels.
Yes.
Yes, she draws pictures and tells stories.
She'll make us our superhero.
Oh, I'm hoping, you know?
Well, maybe
Hopefully she'll keep her dad in mind for these roles, too. But I was really, really, really wanting to hear something. The very first question the great Miss Nina Tassler asked to an incredible array of young women, I thought was maybe a little miscast, because I wanted to hear from you the answer to your own very question, because you're in those positions. You've been in television for a few years. And as much as I'd love to hear what they had to say, but from your perspective, would you be so kind as to answer your own first question?
Well, that's very sweet, but honestly, I am honored beyond words to be here tonight to support these amazing women, because I look at your faces and I look at your careers and I'm inspired so by what you are doing, what you have done, the paths you have walked down to be here. It's extraordinary, because when I first started, this would never have happened. And being the only Latina in this business for a good number of years, it was lonely, and I don't feel alone anymore. And I thank you, and I am so proud of each of you up here. You know, I think it's a journey, and we're all on that journey, and our numbers may be low, but as I said, we are at a moment, and it's the moment of change, and change doesn't, you know, it's going to take time, but the passion, the energy, the commitment, the voices, social media, and I think building a community, and I think there's a word too, and I think it's the word for Gloria on One Day at a Time, which is intersectionality, which is knowing when to stand behind somebody and support them and hold them up. That word and that term is new to our activism today, which is about intersectionality. Knowing when to stand behind somebody to hold them up higher so they can see over the top. And every one of these women here is going to stand and hold somebody up a little higher so they can reach the top, they can reach higher, and they can dream bigger. So I think we will see change, because you've got powerful women like this who are writing and telling stories and performing and sharing, and they're not quiet. And that's something different. So continue to amplify your voices. And again, it is an honor, and so proud of each and every one of you. And thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you.